I'm Debanjan Chakraborty. I'm the director of the British Council here in East and Northeast India, based in Kolkata. And what we are going to sort of see and hear today here at the British Council Library is a classic Bengali adda, a word that is many people think is untranslatable, but I think the jury is out on that. But it is basically a freewheeling conversation with writers of crime fiction from Scotland, London, Kolkata, and we will explore a number of connections that unite, I think, Scotland and Bengal. And we have this shared love of stories and remarkable stories we have there too. We have certainly a shared love of our things that we brew, Darjeeling tea here and whatever that you brew there. I think I'll kick things off by requesting others to give a little bit of an introduction to themselves and tell us about what really excites you about crime fiction or reading crime fiction, reading or writing crime fiction. So, can I start with you, Abhijit?
Hello, my name is Abhijit Gupta and I'm an imposter here. I don't write crime fiction. Though I've been trying to write, having said which, I've been trying to write a novel for the last 3 years. It's all in my head. It will be written someday, but in the course of my work, which is to teach English literature, we do read a lot of crime fiction in our department at Dalhousie University. We have courses in crime fiction currently. In fact, we have a course in literature of espionage, which is on. But one of the things about I think reading crime fiction in this part of the world is that most of us read crime fiction in 2 languages. At least 2 in Bengali and English, and that's sort of really a double treat. And so, I suppose, if you begin by reading your abridged Sherlock Holmeses, or even Wilkie Collins, you also at the same time are able to sample the delights of Shoujendra Bandyopadhyay, who created the detective Omkesh Bakshi, who sort of begins his career around the First World War. Or much later, the filmmaker Satyajit Ray creating the detective Feluda Kodosh Mitter, who is more 60s and 70s vintage. So there was a wealth of material to choose from when we were children, and I suppose teaching at a university is perhaps not something which everyone's very happy with. I mean, how do you really teach crime fiction, or should you actually teach crime fiction? Does it not take away the pleasure? How do you tell your students? How do you not give away spoilers, for instance? So, one of the things which I found of interest over the last few years is to look at the origins of science fiction. Science fiction, not science fiction. That's another thing I teach. Of crime fiction in police procedurals of the 19th century. But I'm going to talk about that a bit later. But I find these moments of originary moments of genesis of crime fiction in this part of the world still untold story, and that's something which I might come back to later.
That's a fantastic context setting, Abhijit. Can I turn to you again and tell us about your writing and your attraction? What attracted you to take up this genre?
Yeah, so primarily I'm a science fiction writer, and as part of my science fiction, crime thrillers that also take a part. So if I look back, I've been also reading Sherlock Holmes, Poirot since childhood. So they have been part of my kind of everyday interest, and then we had, as Abhijit just mentioned, our own creation, Omkesh and Feluda. And if I look at the genesis of the crime fiction here and what had been there in Scotland, to a great extent it's different, and there will be more emphasis on the police procedural things, on the forensics in the latest crime fictions over there. Whereas, over here the crime fiction and the style of writing is a bit different. It's less on forensics. It's more about the collective intelligence that resides in the society. So we'll talk about that in further details, particularly. I think it will be a great time to kind of understand what's your vision about crime fiction and where we can cross the bridge.
Thanks, Abhijnan. I think you touched upon something we'll all come back to, our memory of early reading and being introduced to crime fiction and being really excited by it. Abir, can I ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself and your connection to crime fiction and to Kolkata?
My name is Abir Mukherjee. I am the sort of rare creature of Scottish Bengali, and I have grown up in the west of Scotland, but my parents are from Calcutta. My culture is Bengali, and this city of Calcutta, runs through my DNA. I've always read crime fiction. It has always been the genre, amongst other things, but it's the genre I will always go back to because it's what excites me, and it covers everything from whodunits to looking at social conditions, and it's the dread that you can tackle in a crime novel, social issues to whatever else that really fascinates me. For me, I started writing as part of the search for my own identity. So my books are set in Calcutta in the 1920s, and they follow a British detective who comes to Calcutta after the First World War, and it follows him and an Indian scout. Essentially, the crimes are there, but the books are really vehicles for an exploration of the time and the place. And for me, that's very important because that time and that place has contributed so much to the modern world. It's not just to India, but to Britain as well. And me especially, when I'm the child of both cultures, that time and that place is very, very important in understanding who I am as a person. And that's why I started writing. Why crime fiction? Because it is what I love. And it felt natural for me to explore these issues through the medium of a crime novel. I didn't want to write a history book. I wanted to write something which I would pick up and read, and I want people to pick up and read. And that's why I chose the crime genre.
Val, you have been writing for 30 years now, so could you tell us a little bit about what drew you to this genre and your early years in writing?
I grew up in very much a working class background in the east of Scotland, and we didn't really have books in the house because that was a luxury, and my parents did the best thing they possibly could, in my terms. When I was 6 years old, they moved house to live opposite the Central Library, and so the Central Library became my home from home, and I would go to the library pretty much every night after school and change my library books because I just read my way around the library. I devoured everything. And I was reading a book when I was probably about 7 or 8, 9 years old, a series of books called the Chalet School books, which were girls' school stories. And one of the characters in this series grows up and becomes a writer of girls' school stories. Now we would see that very metafictional, but at the time it was just these things like that, because you understand these things, you're clever. And then in one book, and I can still picture the paragraph that was on the right-hand page about halfway down, she opened the envelope and found a cheque from her publisher. And I thought, you get paid for doing this? This is actually a job? And that was where I formulated the desire to be a writer. The crime fiction came really indirectly because of the library. I used to spend a lot of time with my grandparents, who lived just along the coast in a small village. And they didn't have a library, so I would take my library books with me, but I always ran out of things to read. And they only had 2 books in the house. They had a copy of the Bible, and for some reason, a copy of Agatha Christie's Murder at the Vicarage. So whenever I ran out of library books, I would reread The Murder at the Vicarage, and I just fell in love with this. I loved the storytelling element of it. I loved the way that all these little subplots interlocked, and at the end everything came out properly. And then, of course, I noticed in the inside cover of the book that Agatha Christie had written more than one book. So I thought at that point, I wanted to read these. But they were in the adult library, which I couldn't get my hands on. So I did a terrible thing. I stole my mother's library ticket. And I went across to the library and I stood in front of the librarian and I said, "My mum's not well, I'll have to get her a book." And it worked for 5 years. Those lovely librarians of Kirkcaldy let me just raid the adult library, and I just read my way around the crime section, and I loved it. And it was always my default whenever I was not reading something else that I was supposed to be reading for study, or that I was reading associated with my study, I'd go off and get a crime novel. And it's interesting what you were saying there about studying crime fiction. When I was at Oxford, we didn't study crime fiction at all. But I did notice that every time I went for a tutorial, in amongst all the books on the shelves, the Complete Shakespeare and the Early English Text Society and the complete works of T.S. Eliot, there would be the green and white spines of the classic Penguin crime novels. So it seemed to me that while it might not be intellectually respectable to study it, it was okay still to read it. And so when finally, after a couple of false starts and things, I decided I was going to write my first serious, proper attempt at a novel. It seemed obvious to try to write a crime novel. The thing that held me back at that point was that in the early 1980s in the UK, there really were only police procedurals and village mysteries. And English villages were very different from the villages I had grown up with, and I didn't really know very much about the police, so I was kind of stuck. And then somebody sent me Sarah Paretsky's first novel, Indemnity Only, and that was like a light bulb going off in my head. Here was a novel with a female protagonist with a brain and a sense of humour and agency. She worked things out for herself, and the crimes that were committed they arose out of the environment that she was working and living in. They happened because of the kind of jobs people did there, because of the kind of politics that was going on in the city, and that just fired me up to start writing my own first attempt at a crime novel, which became Report for Murder and was published in 1987. And my appetite has not reduced for crime fiction as a reader or a writer, principally because of the way the genre has expanded exponentially over recent years. That notion of it has to be a police procedural or a village mystery is just gone now. People can write any kind of novel they want to write within the parameters of a crime novel. You don't have to be tied to a particular kind of story. You can have any setting. You can set it in a small group of people. You can open your focus wide. So you can go anywhere and do anything and write any kind of novel that you want to do. And the great advantage of the crime novel is that you take your large readership with you. So it's a way to write the books you want to write, but also to make a living as a writer.
Some very, very interesting things I think we'll come back to. One is the structure of the classic detective novel, The Village, and Agatha Christie model of writing vis-a-vis Sarah Paretsky, and some of the stuff that you write about more in the thriller genre or crime thriller genre. Graeme, if we may turn to you and get your views on what made you the tallest crime fiction writer of Scotland.
Well, it's a kind of long story. I've actually also, like Val, been writing for 30 years. The difference is it took me 25 years to finish a novel and get it published. And so I had kind of a long journey. I did write a detective novel back in the 1990s, which didn't get published, thank goodness. It's called Hard Rain. Classic crime novel title, and it was set in a thinly veiled version of my hometown, which is Kilmarnock. So I come from an industrial town in western Scotland called Kilmarnock. It's a town of about 50,000 people. I come from, although it's got a reputation of being quite a sort of hard working class town, but I actually come from a sort of middle class background. But my parents weren't great readers. My dad would usually read a few pages of a Robert Ludlum thriller in bed, and my mum would read a few pages of her Jilly Cooper novel in bed, but it wasn't a literary household. I'll come to the sort of crime light bulb moment in a minute, but my sort of, I didn't, as a teenager, I wasn't particularly interested in books and literature. I didn't know, it's about that sort of thing about access, maybe you've touched on, about thinking it's possible for you, not coming from a literary background. I never thought about being a writer. But when I was about 15, in schools in Scotland, they had these things, terrifying plastic trays of books, and they called them home readers. And these were the books you had to take home and read voluntarily from cover to cover, which at the time for me was, a terrible sort of torture. I dismissed all the books available until there was only one left, and it had no writing on the cover other than the title. And I took it home and opened it with a sort of bored teenage shrug. And read the lines, I'm not going to give you any of that David Copperfield kind of crap. And the book was Catcher in the Rye. And just like that book spoke to me in the voice that I kind of had inside my head. And suddenly I realised that literature could be something for me, something that spoke to me and maybe something that I could take part in. So I started kind of seeking out. Kilmarnock didn't even have a bookshop. It had a kind of large newsagent called W.H. Smith's, and they had a few, they kept a stock of books, and I knew that Penguin books were good. That was literature. So I thought, I'd go for the ones with the orange spines, the Penguin classics, and I came across, by this method, the slimmest Penguin classic, which is Albert Camus' The Outsider. And again, I read the first line, Today My Mother Died. And as a disgruntled teenager, again, it was the voice of that opening line that just spoke to me, that the lack of emotion, the lack of descriptive language. I didn't know that literature could be written in this kind of blank way. So I didn't come straight into, well, obviously that was 30 years ago. In terms of crime fiction, my Agatha Christie was George Simenon, the Belgian writer. Simenon, if you don't know him, how many novels did Agatha Christie write? About 78? 78, and that's nothing. Simenon wrote over 200 novels under his own name, and up to 500 under different names. He wrote with incredible speed. His novels were written in 11 days. Even faster than you, Val. I think he spent 8 days writing the novel, a chapter a day, and then he would spend 3 days editing. Quite a lot of wine consumed during this process. Yes, reading Simenon, I came to Simenon after studying English literature at university, where crime fiction was not even mentioned. The closest you would have come would be Wilkie Collins, which I don't remember being on any curriculums at the time. I'm sure Wilkie Collins' reputation has risen in the last 20 or 30 years. Things like The Moonstone, Women in White are, I would say, you could put them in the bracket of crime fiction. So I came to George Simenon, and I was just blown away by it. The sort of Camus-like language, very spare descriptions. And although Simenon is a crime writer, what he's most concerned about in his best work, in my opinion, is really the psychology of the criminal. And so I think there's this, if you could divide very, very broadly crime fiction into two kind of strands, and that's the strand which is told from the point of view of the investigator, whether it's a journalist or a detective or just an interested bystander, or the crime fiction that's told from the point of view of the perpetrator of the crime, and it's really about the motivation of the criminal, the psychology of the criminal, what's going on in their heads. And I suppose that's the kind of crime fiction I enjoy, and I suppose my own work would kind of fall into that kind of bracket. Just in terms of your very opening question about what you enjoy about crime fiction, I don't make this distinction between crime fiction and other fiction, which sometimes goes by other names. It's about good writing. And I don't want to read a literary novel that's badly written, and I don't want to read a crime novel that's badly written. And I respond to character. You mentioned that the crimes in your book are a kind of vehicle for exploring these issues around your own identity, the history, and the politics of the time. And I think good crime novels, they have some sort of social issue, and there's something in the background rather than just the narrative solving of the crime, the police procedural kind of stuff. which I don't particularly get excited by. I'm always more concerned with why is the cop so determined to solve this crime? What's going on in his background? I've just been reading about Tony Hill's father and his leaving him this house, and whether Tony Hill, it's one of Val's characters, is going to accept this. And so the character is completely, and that really interests me because the character has depth. So